Hey, what's up, everybody? On today's Locked On Badgers, Wisconsin fans are spoiled. You, me, us, all of us. We're going to talk about why. All that and more on today's Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Locked On Badgers. Thank you for making this your first listen every day for all your Badger content, news, notes, thoughts. I am Ryan Herrings, your host. Honored to be here. Thank you, everyone that listens to the show. Again, thank you for making it your first listen every day. We are here for you. We are here to build the community. You know, and like I kind of said at the beginning, I had an interesting Twitter question. We're going to bring it up at Frank CR602, who listens to the show. Appreciate the question, Frank. He asked, is 9-4 at Wisconsin considered a disappointment for the football team? A 9-4 record. And it's an interesting question, right? Because in some ways it is. In some ways, when you play as well consistently as Wisconsin has in the last 20, 25 years, 9-4 is a bit of a disappointment. And it gets into my bigger point for segment one here. We are spoiled, like all of us. Nebraska wishes they were Wisconsin, period. Nebraska wishes they were us, okay? And over the last 10, 20 years, they would kill to be Wisconsin. Are you kidding me? Like, maybe not 20 years, right? Obviously, they did win some national titles in the 90s. Let me take that back. But look at where they are now. Look at where a lot of programs that have proud histories are now. Hello, Tennessee. Hello, Miami, Florida. Like Wisconsin fans, we are so spoiled, okay? And part of that is it's nothing we've done wrong, right? When you have sustained, consistent success, you start to take it for granted. It's the Atlanta Braves syndrome in the 90s when they just thought they would always win the division title, right? It's the Cowboys. It's the Lakers, right? When every year they feel like they're going to get the best free agent. And I'm not comparing Wisconsin because we haven't won that natty, right? We haven't taken that next step. I get that, and I get that's the goal. But let's not lose sight of what this program does and what we're doing. So listen, since 2000, Wisconsin is ninth in all of college football winning percentage. Ninth in the country. And I know as Wisconsin fans, we know this. We see the infographics that are always put up, most winningest programs. But I feel like we're starting to get to a point where it doesn't register as a big deal anymore. Guys, it's a big deal. Like winning consistently is really tough. It's not to be taken for granted because you do it until you don't, right? You win consistently until you don't. And then it takes a while to get out of that muck. Let's not take it for granted. Yes, we can continue to aspire for that next step. We should do that. Wisconsin is the third longest active bowl streak in the country, y'all, behind Georgia and Oklahoma. It goes Georgia, blue blood, Oklahoma, blue blood, Wisconsin. Doesn't go Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama. It doesn't go Georgia, Oklahoma, Ohio State. It doesn't go Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma, USC, Georgia, Oklahoma, Auburn. It goes Georgia, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. And low-key, Wisconsin's not that far behind even Georgia, Oklahoma. Like, you have to celebrate this. They haven't missed a bowl game in 20 years. Nebraska hasn't made a bowl game since 2016. Nebraska has not made a bowl game since 2016. And yes, I am not going to knock the history of Nebraska football. They in the mid 90s, that's one of the best teams, one of the best runs in college football history. And it's not like their history starts there. But at this point, would Nebraska fans trade with Wisconsin? Yeah, they would. They're not going to say they would, but they would. Absolutely they would. Like, which program is better? Which program cycles through head coaches? Which program gets more out of their players? Which program puts more of their players into the NFL? Which program is more consistent? If you're betting your mortgage on one of these players, on one of these programs winning 10 games this year, who are you taking? It's Wisconsin. Like, this program has gotten to the point where winning 9 games, and this circles back to Frank's question, and this is what I want to dive into because I think it's fascinating. This program has gotten to the point where winning 8-9 games is a disappointment. Not winning the division is a disappointment. That's incredible. And it's something we should take a step back and realize, A, it's probably not going to be like this forever, right? Things don't last forever. We should appreciate it. And B, we should take a step back and understand that 9 wins is a big deal. Like Wisconsin, if you look at players in the NFL, right? We watch sports, we watch football, we watch the Badgers because we want to see great things. And we've had the privilege of watching great players. Wisconsin in the top 20 in NFL players right now from Wisconsin. We've got to see guys like Russell Wilson, the Watts, Melvin Gordon, Monte Ball, really incredible players, come through. And we're watching it again with this next crop of kids. It's been a privilege, honestly, to follow Wisconsin football. And by the way, we're spoiled as basketball fans too. This is more of a football centric show, but yeah, y'all know we are also spoiled as basketball fans, right? The consistency from both programs, they mirror each other. And it's something that we've, as a fan base, myself included, like I'm there, we take it for granted. It's not a promise that Wisconsin's going to be good everywhere. They're going to go to a bowl game every year. Again, Nebraska hasn't been to a bowl game since 2016, y'all. Since 2016. You know how easy it is to get to a bowl game nowadays. Don't take what Wisconsin's doing for granted. Yeah, we got to get better, right? The quarterback play hasn't been good enough. We've made switches. We haven't beat Ohio State 10 years or in 10 tries. But all of that, we can talk about that, but let's not lose sight of the fact that every single year, Wisconsin's going to be a favorite in 80, 90 to 100% of their games. I mean, that tells you something. It tells you about the consistency of the program. It tells you about the culture. It tells you about let me put it that way. Aside from Alabama, Ohio State, probably Georgia recently, but is there a safer program to put money on in terms of they won't have a losing season in all of college football? Oh, wait, there's not. It's a couple big time helmet schools with Nick Saban, with Ryan Day, and then it's Wisconsin, and there's no safer program. And I'm here to tell you, I know it feels kind of like the game manager quarterback discussion, right? Like Wisconsin is maybe the game manager of college football programs in terms of how safe it is and kind of at times how unsexy it is. But let's not lose sight of the fact that there's programs losing 9-10 games a year, major programs, right? That can't get out of their own way. Hello, Nebraska. Hello, Tennessee. Hello, tons of schools. Fill in the blank, man. So yeah, to answer back to your question, Frank, again, at Frank CR602, appreciate the question. Is 9-4 a disappointment? It is, but it shouldn't be. That's how I'm going to answer it. It really kind of is at times, but it shouldn't be. It should not be a disappointment. We can't get to a point where we go 9-4 and then we think the sky is falling. I think at that point we've probably lost a little bit of perspective, and it's because we've been spoiled by how good this program's been. Okay, it can't be 9-4 every season, by the way. Like 9-4 is a really good year. Occasionally, you do got to win 10, 11 games. Occasionally, you do got to beat Ohio State. Absolutely. I'm not saying you don't, but I am saying 9-4 can't be a disappointment. It can't. Maybe it's not a win. Maybe it's not a success. At times, our schedule isn't overly difficult, but 9-4 can't be a disappointment, guys. Frank, great question, man. Appreciate it. Coming up next, guys, we're going to talk about I think we've answered some questions on the football side. We're going to talk about the biggest non-quarterback questions remaining coming out of spring, because we're not going to get into the quarterback game. We talked about it a lot. What are the biggest questions remaining? Has Wisconsin addressed them? But first, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. After months of just continuing to talk about BetOnline, the experience and the process gets better and better and better and better. They remain the number one site for all your sports betting needs, all your sports betting information. There really isn't a better place to go. And it's got you covered on sports news too, newsletters, podcasts, and it's got Vegas games, roulette, blackjack. Everything you need is there. And again, we talk about it all the time. This is a great time of the year to do it. It's tons of sports going on, and you have NFL futures if you have a good feel for something. The website is incredibly easy to use. It's something that everyone at Locked On does. It's a lot of fun, and it's not something that requires a lot of money. You put a few bucks in on a wager, on a future, and then you just kind of follow along. It makes it more exciting. It makes it more enjoyable, and it allows you to kind of parlay your sports knowledge into a little bit of fun and excitement. So head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, guys. We're going to get into the next segment we wanted to talk about, which is the three biggest questions kind of remaining out of spring football, out of practices, non-quarterback related. Because I think we all understand quarterback is still a gigantic question, right? But we've talked about it a lot. You don't need someone to tell you quarterback is a question mark on this team. So we're going to move past quarterback What are, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, let me know if I'm wrong, the three biggest questions remaining on this team outside of that quarterback spot? I think the first one is inside linebackers. I really think people are glossing over a little bit how much we lost last year and how much of a given it's not, how much of a given it's not that we're going to replace that completely. You're not going to replace two NFL dudes. And I know Sanborn was a UDFA, but he was an NFL dude. Chenel was the best player on the team potentially last year. So it's brand new. And frankly, the guys replacing him haven't played a ton. Tatum Grass, by the way, just former walk-on, just got a scholarship, which is awesome, continuing that tradition of Wisconsin walk-ons becoming scholarship players. He's a guy who has played quite a bit. He's been in the program quite a bit. Or he hasn't played quite a bit. He's been in a program for several years. He's a guy who's going to play in the 2 deep. And then you have a lot of questions. Turner is obviously a guy people have been really high on. He's athletic. He's fast. I don't know. We don't know. And it could be a problem, guys. I don't think the depth is necessarily great. And I think there's been injury concerns with some of the guys, like Nanjameta has, he came in with a lot of praise and a lot of hype. He's been hurt a lot. Is he going to be able to step in and play? I really like Jake Chaney. He's a coach's son. He came in as last year. They found a way to play him. He didn't redshirt. He's definitely a guy that the coaches like. He's a little undersized. He reminds me a little bit of like a Chris Orr, kind of a vocal, high intensity guy. He leaves it all out there. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think it's a big question. And I'm not sure it's been solved yet. You could see with the new inside linebacker coach coming in, he was playing around with the rotations a little bit. He started off spring with the guys who played the most, and then eventually you saw Turner kind of move into that role. So I think he's shuffling around too. So I think that's one to follow. The second one, and this could be a problem too, guys, is running back depth, right? We saw this rear its head last year. This was a problem last year, like a major problem. And I don't know if we fixed it. So you have Braelon Allen, and we know what Braelon Allen is. We know we're going to feed him. We also know he got nicked up a lot last year. But here's the thing with Braelon Allen, right? Braelon Allen doesn't miss violence. Okay, you know what I mean? Like there's certain NFL players who get hit a lot without getting hit a lot, right? There's certain college players who get hit a lot without getting hit a lot. They're slippery. They don't take big shots. Braelon Allen's not that. Braelon Allen absorbs a certain amount of violence and punishment every single game. Right, it's in his play style. It is what it is. Part of it is because he's a huge dude, right? He's getting submarined and jackknifed by safeties and corners and linebackers that are diving at his legs, hitting him in various angles. It's hard for him to avoid those contact. Because of that, he gets banged up. I think he's going to get dinged up again probably if you give him a ton of carries. I think it's just part of his play style. It is what it is. He's a total workhorse. He's a stud, but you can't give him, I think, in my opinion, the Jonathan Taylor workload, because Taylor was just better at avoiding some of the big hits. So what do we have behind him? And that's where we get into some of the issues, right? Last year, Chez Mellusi got hurt, and he's still rehabbing that injury, guys. Listen, if you've seen Chez Mellusi's pictures, he looks like the upper body. Yeah, he's hit the weight room this offseason. He's big. He's jacked. How's the injury going to respond week one? The lower body injury? That's a bad injury he had. We don't know. We really don't know, guys. And then you have Isaac Guerendo, who we've talked about. We love us some Isaac Guerendo on Locked On Badgers. Fast, big. The dude has had more injuries than carries, it feels like, in his Badger career. And the injuries go back to his high school time. He's got a lot of lower body injuries. He's had hamstring issues. He had a foot fracture. I don't know, guys. Like, I would love for him to be good, right? The track record at this point says that he has some persistent lower body injury issues. And some of that's bad luck, 100%. Some players just have bad luck with injuries. Some have good. But some of it, after a while, becomes a bit of a trend. You have Julius Davis, who, the former in-state kid. I don't know what we're going to get out of him. He's a guy who had a lot of injury issues early in his career as well. He started to play a little bit last year. Jackson Aker, a young kid who came in and was really, I think the coaching staff feels like probably more of a fullback than a running back. So we have to wait to see what we get there. That's what I'm saying, guys. Like, it's a questionable area for a team that runs the ball a ton, because I don't know what happens if Braelon Allen gets nicked up again. You really have to lean on Chez Mellusi. You really have to lean on, Brady Shipper. You have to lean on potentially Katie Ekameli was an athlete in last year's recruiting class. So he's coming in as a true freshman. He's been billed as a running back coming in. So it's hard to put that all on a high school kid coming in. So I think running back depth remains an issue, guys. I don't think the staff did a good enough job of addressing it this cycle. I would have brought a transfer in, straight up. Yeah, just a guy that is seasoned. He's been through the weight room, and he could take 5 to 10 carries a game if needed. If Braelon Allen got hurt, if Ches Malusi isn't ready, if Isaac Renda, and there's a lot of ifs here, but a lot of these ifs have happened, right? All these ifs that I'm saying literally happened last year, right? Allen got nicked, Malusi got hurt, and Grendo didn't stay healthy. And suddenly we're down to Julius Davis needing to play crunch time minutes. It just creates some problems. So I think that's a question mark. And the last one is tight end health, tight end production. This is something that has a little been outside of the staff's control. I think Mickey Turner has done a great job recruiting that position in general. There's a lot of guys there I like. The dudes just keep getting hurt. So what are we going to get out of the position this year? Clay Cundiff is a guy who was coming on a little bit in his Badger career before he had a really bad leg injury, with a fracture and I think a dislocation at the same time. He should be back, hopefully. Cam Large, Cole Dakovich, all guys that are pretty physical, athletic, that have struggled with injuries. I don't know. Jack Eschenbach is a guy to obviously look out for, the former walk-on, 6'5", 6'6", more of a receiving threat. And then Jalen Franklin, are we going to get anything out of this really athletic kid that we took from outside linebacker, a spot he looked like he could be really productive in? We took him out of that spot and rolled him into tight end. We really haven't got anything out of him. And it's sink or swim this year, right? So I don't know. I think the tight end health and the tight end production remains a question mark. If you look back at it, I think those are the 3 big questions that we have coming out of spring, right? Inside linebacker depth production, running back depth, and then what are we getting from the tight end spot in general? Obviously, a new tight end coach as well. Chris Herring is moving over from the special teams position to coach tight ends. I don't know. He's never done that before. He's never coached tight ends. That's a bit of a question mark as well for me. So that's, to me, the 3 biggest remaining questions. Coming up next, guys, after a word from our sponsors, we're going to talk about 3 ways. We talked about some questions. We talked about concerns with the football team. What are 3 ways this Badger football team is going to be better on the field next year? All right, guys. Wrapping up today's show, we've made it very football-centric. Again, we've talked about why we're spoiled. Yes, we are, myself included. We've talked about 3 question marks or 3 kind of remaining issues potentially with the football team. I want to finish on a good note because I'm a positive guy in general. What are 3 areas Wisconsin's football team we're going to put the stamp on it, be better than last year's team? The first one I'm going to get into is coaching. And not to throw shade at anybody, I think there was clearly some issues with the dynamic between Paul Chryst and Joe Rudolph, right? They've been together a long time. There was probably a comfort level there, but you could see it with Chryst elevating Joe Rudolph to the offensive coordinator position, and then a year later taking it back. That it put a ton on Paul Chryst, or Coach Chryst plate, right? He was coaching quarterbacks, the offensive game plan. Joe Rudolph, listen, no matter how well you phrase it, no matter how well you take it, it can't feel good to be the offensive coordinator for one season and then get put back on the offensive line position. Right. And then the offense still struggles, right? If you're Joe Rudolph, you're probably there thinking, I'm going to be scapegoated for this, but this isn't on me. The offense has been bad for 3 years. So Rudolph moved on. I continue to think the hiring of Bobby Ingram is an absolute home run, guys. This is potentially the biggest and best offseason move, bringing Bobby Ingram in from the Baltimore Ravens, where he's had, worked with athletic players, a good tight end, a great young quarterback. And he's worked in a coaching system that emphasizes power. It emphasizes some innovation. I love that Harbaugh tree. I love it. Ingram's going to come in, and this offense is going to look better because of him, because of his voice. Here's the thing. Ingram comes in. What I was worried about with the offseason struggles or with the offseason coaching shuffle is that Paul Chryst would bring in somebody like Scott Tolzien to be his offense coordinator. And I love Scott. That's no knock on Scott. But I wanted someone to come in with some gravitas, right? Some gravity. Ingram comes in with gravity. He's a big name, an NFL guy. He's a former highly successful, receiver. This guy comes in, and he's not coming in to sit on the sidelines and do whatever Paul Chryst wants. He's coming in to kind of balance some of that out. So I think 100% the coaching staff is going to be better on the offensive side. We talked about Bob Bostad becoming the offensive line coach. Are you kidding me? That is another home run addition. Now, I didn't necessarily love the Al Johnson running back thing. I don't necessarily love the Chris Herring to tight end thing. But I think with Bob Bostad coming in and with Bobby Ingram coming in, those are A+++ additions. Even if the other ones aren't great, I don't think they're bad. There's no way this coaching staff isn't better, guys, period. It's going to be more dynamic. It's going to be more innovative. The offensive line is going to be better because of Bostad. 100% mark it down. I love those changes. Let's go outside linebackers. They're going to be better next year than they were last year. You're losing Noah Burks, but you're getting CJ Getz, I think, is a Noah Burks with a little more athletic ability. You're getting year 3 Nick Herbig, who's about to put on his NFL draft pre-edition tape. And then you have all these young dudes, the Caden Johnsons. You got the TJ Bowlers, the Daryl Petersons, even maybe the Aaron Witts if he stays healthy. All these young dudes that have been waiting in the wings for a year, they're going to be unleashed this year. And I think you're just going to see havoc. I think Herbig is a monster. You're going to have guys on the other side who are young and hungry, talented. It's the deepest, most athletic position on the team. And I think it's going to just be dynamic, guys. It's going to be better than last year. It was really good last year. Herbig is a star. Herbig is probably, I would say, the best player on the Badgers defensive side, except, maybe it's Keanu Benton, but if it's not him, it's Herbig. And on the other side, you just have young, athletic, physical, 3-4 star type guys. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to see the outside linebacker rotation there. And I think they're just going to cause havoc for quarterbacks the entire game, the entire season. So outside linebacker is going to be better. Let's talk about the third one. And this ties into the first one a little bit. The passing game is going to be better this year, guys. I know this is a bit of a cop-out, right? Because I said I'm not going to talk quarterback. But the quarterback bolstered by better offensive line play via Bob Bostad, and bolstered by a more dynamic offensive game plan, Bobby Ingram. It's going to be better. The passing game will be better this year. I am fully confident of that. I would be stunned if it wasn't. I like the weapons on the edges more. I think the receivers are more dynamic. They're more physical. I think DK is already going to be the best receiver we've seen in a couple of years here. I think Marcus Allen, Keontae Lewis. There are some really, really interesting, unique pieces on the edge that we haven't had. Dean Ingram in the slot might give us that kind of versatile guy that can work over the middle of the field. I think they moved him there for a reason. They didn't move him there not to play him. So I think the passing game is going to be better. I think it's a combination of the weapons on the outside, the offensive line being better, and quite frankly, just the coaching being more synchronized. Graham Mertz has been in the system another year, right? I think obviously his career hasn't progressed in kind of the linear way we wanted it to, but the book isn't written on him yet. I don't think he could be worse than he was last year. Frankly, I think he's going to be better, and the pieces around him are also better. He's in a better ecosystem, guys. So, yeah, I think if you look at this year coming up, I'd be stunned if the coaching wasn't better. I'd be stunned if the outside linebackers weren't better, which is already saying a lot. And I'd be really stunned if the passing game wasn't better. All those things combined, there's a lot to look forward to, guys. Thank you as always. That's our show today. Thank you as always for listening to Locked On Badgers. You can always contact the show. Like I said earlier, if you have questions or comments, we'll bang them out on the show. We'll hash them up. I'll give you my thoughts on them. So I appreciate the question for Frank earlier regarding 9-4 being a disappointment. Like I said, it is, but it shouldn't be because we're a little spoiled. Thank you for making Locked On Badgers your first listen each and every day. We appreciate it. Continue to follow the show, like, listen, subscribe. It really does help out. And we'll talk to you tomorrow, guys. Really quick, coming up, like I mentioned an episode ago, we have some really good deep takes on the new commit, both the offensive lineman and the safety transfer, Latu and Durand. We're going to have John Garcia from Sports Illustrated on to dive into the film on those guys. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. So continue listening to Locked On Badgers and have a good day.